I'm going to share my screen and then we should be good to go. Cool. So, who's this masterclass for? If you're frustrated with stubborn fat, low energy, unpredictable cycles, obviously we're going to look about how hormones affect fat loss and fitness and proven steps that you need to take to regain control. Oh, um, yeah, that's okay, Christina. I can answer this as well. I'll come back to your question in the Q&A, Christina, then you'll be able to watch it on record. That's fine that you've popped that in there. Cool. So, what we're going to be going through today, understanding hormonal changes and their impact on fat loss, exploring perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, discussing PMDD and PCOS in relation to fat loss, evidence-based strategies for training, nutrition, and recovery. I've also now added in HRT therapies and pill combination therapies as well. Just a disclaimer, guys, I am obviously not a doctor. So any advice that I give, please take it with a pinch of salt. Please consult with a doctor first. Obviously, I do know a lot about this topic, but this is not me prescribing you with any pill, with any hormone replacement therapy or anything like that. I take no responsibility if you get any side effects. And then obviously a Q&A session at the end. Cool. So, key defining concepts. I'm going to be going through this. I'm going to be repeating myself a lot. And the reason being is there is a lot of terminology that's going to be included today. So, we're going to look at the menstrual cycle. We're going to look at perimenopause and the transition phase. We're going to look at menopause of 12 consecutive months. Postmenopause, which is the period following menopause, and hormones involved. So things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, and thyroid. Sorry if I seem like I'm steaming through this, guys. There is quite a lot on this today. So, looking at the phases of the menstrual cycle, some of you may know this, some of you may not. So, you've got your follicular phase. This is days 1 to 14. This is when you have rising estrogen and increased energy. Then you have ovulation, which is day 14 to 16. So there's only a couple of days of ovulation. And again, guys, if you are on either hormonal contraception or you are not, it is worth exploring. Again, I don't take any accountability for any pregnancies, but looking at things like natural cycling because you cannot get pregnant on every single day of the month. So natural cycling, if you're ever interested, have a look into it. But ovulation, usually 5 days before you ovulate, and ovulation is the time that you can get pregnant. Post ovulation, you cannot get pregnant. But again, talk to your doctor, go do your own research. Luteal phase, days 16 to 28. This is rising progesterone, increased appetite, and menstruation, days 1 to 5. Hormone levels low, energy meter dip. I'll be going through this in a lot of detail in each of the separate different cycles. So you don't need to remember this right now, but obviously there's a visual there. You can go into Google and type in phases of the menstrual cycle and look at some visuals, but looking at it in that position really, really helps me understand which part I'm in. Obviously, if you are a client, this will make you probably understand why I ask you what day of your cycle you're on in your check-in form. So what I don't like to see is when you say, oh, you're in week 2, or I had a period 2 weeks ago, because it doesn't make much sense. Use the day. So if you came on your period, number 1, and you were 2 weeks post-period, you're on day 14. So that's all you need to write in that part for your check-in form. Cool. Training around your cycle. There's a lot of different advice for this online. You know, you'll see so many videos where um obviously women, I'm going to say women especially, but men are obviously not doing it because it's training around your cycle, are doing yoga and stretches and completely out of the gym when they're menstruating or the week due onto the period. I personally don't agree with that. And I'm going to talk about this, but we don't need totally different training approaches depending where we are in the cycle. But I'm going to explain on the differences of recovery and energy because it is worth noting. So first of all, you got your follicular phase. This is days 1 to 14. So rising estrogen, your energy increases, and this is ideal for strength. So this is when you're going to hit PBs, you're going to feel really energized, you're going to be really nice to me because you think I'm the best coach in the world because you're in your follicular phase. In your ovulation, so you get a couple of days in ovulation, this is when it peaks. If you are not in the gym around ovulation, what are you doing? This is just absolute golden time for women. This is peak strength, peak recovery, optimal for intense training sessions. So this is why it is so important to get really clued down on your cycle and where you are, because you will understand when to push hard. You then got your luteal phase, this is days 16 to 28. So this is where you may notice a dip in strength. And I see it week after week. Oh, I didn't hit any PBs this week. That was really, really hard. My heart rate's really, really high. Chances are you're in your luteal phase. So there'll be a reason for it. Not always. There can be emotional, sleep factors. There can be many factors, but mainly it could be down to this. You've then got your menstrual phase, day 1 to 5 of your cycle. Hormone levels are low, and you may benefit from lower intensity or more mobility. Keyword being may benefit. What I like to do when I'm in my menstrual phase is do not put myself under pressure to hit PBs or start hitting new records. I might do a little bit more mobility because I'm a higher risk of injury. I might do a bit more of a cool down. Listen to your body, yeah, not your emotions. So again, it says down here, during menstruation, low hormone levels may impact your motivation, but exercise can help alleviate painful symptoms. I know it is so easy, guys, when we're in pain to curl up in a ball and just want to die on the sofa. Obviously, I'll talk about this, but I've got PCOS. I struggle with my periods, especially the first 24 hours. The worst thing that you can do is end up a hermit. Exercise, gentle walking, cycling, swimming, even strength training will alleviate your symptoms. You've then got follicular phase. Again, this is going to be higher hormones, higher energy. You go into ovulation, again, peak time, golden time. Energy levels may stay high during ovulation. This phase can feel different for everyone, so listen to your body and adjust your intensity. Luteal phase, again, means your body is less effective at providing energy. Workouts may feel harder during this phase, but we shouldn't skip workouts and start going to hot yoga. Yeah, we can do extra stuff, extra mobility, more stress reduction, not put as much pressure on ourselves, maybe one less set or one less exercise and not push ourselves to absolutely kill ourselves. But I see so many coaches and so much advice that we shouldn't be training in the luteal or menstruation phase. So you're telling me from days 15 to day 1, we're not going to train. It's half of your life. So it's not feasible to not be training. So, nutrition adjustments by cycle phase. Now, I want to take, guys, I want you to take everything that I say again with a pinch of salt because a well-balanced nutrition diet is beneficial all cycle round. It's not like we're suddenly taking things away because we're in a certain phase. What I do want to explain that the food that is optimal for each phase that will help alleviate symptoms. So, carbohydrates, they're better tolerated in follicular and ovulation phases. Protein needs to be a consistent intake to support muscle retention. Fat is essential for hormone production, including healthy fats. So, the amount of times I have clients with PCOS, PMDD, really bad PMS, and their fat intake is so, so low. A lot of hormone imbalances and hormonal problems can be fixed or definitely symptoms reduced by eating a consistent amount of healthy fat. Yeah, there's a very big difference between healthy fat and then things like chocolate and crisps. And again, I'm going to talk about this. Micronutrients. If you guys are on Evolution or you're in a long-term client, you will either have done this training or you will do this training. This is all about things like magnesium, zinc, vitamin D. So macros and micros are two different things. Yeah. So there is a presentation on that. Uh, Now, I will be coming on to hormonal contraception. It doesn't eliminate all of this necessarily. It depends on what contraception that you are on. You will still ovulate usually through hormonal contraception, but it depends what type. And I'm going to go through different types and what effect that they have. So hopefully it will answer your question. Um, so again, macronutrients are your protein, fats, and carbs. Micronutrients are things like magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, loads of different things for hormonal balance. We're going to touch on micronutrients today, but if you are an advanced client, you will have gone through this training or you will go through this training because it's a whole other beast in itself. Cool. Nutritional adjustments by cycle phase. So your brain is in constant communication with the rest of your body every day via your hormones. The energy and nutrients you obtain from your diet and the raw materials your body needs to produce hormones and properly fuel your body. If your diet doesn't supply enough energy or materials to make all the hormones you need, it will prioritize production of the stress hormone. Yeah, because it's essential for survival. So this is why, guys, just eating a calorie deficit full of shit, highly processed food is not beneficial. Your body's going to produce more stress hormone because it's not getting enough nutrients. And essentially, your body just needs to survive. So it's just going to start pumping out more cortisol. Yeah. So that's why whole foods, and everyone says eat whole foods, eat whole foods. Why? This is why. No one really explains the why. This leads to unhealthy fluctuations in your hormone levels, which can trigger a variety of symptoms. Luckily, a well-rounded clean diet and high in nutrients is literally your best tool for creating balanced health and a balanced cycle. When I went to the doctors, obviously this must have been like 15 years ago now because I was obese. I was literally bleeding for months on end. I had horrendous acne, like every single symptom you can imagine. And they told me to lose weight. And obviously I was vastly annoyed at that. Um, when I lost weight, pretty much 90% of my symptoms went. And a massive part of that was creating a whole foods diet. And I truly believe it's because my body was not getting enough nutrients. It was producing more stress and more cortisol, which was then making fat loss harder, but also making my symptoms harder. Yeah. Cool. If you've ever noticed that your hunger during certain weeks of the month, or you tend to have major cravings like carbs and sugar during those times, then you've experienced your body's shift in nutritional needs. Your entire system, hormones, your brain, and your body will run at its best when you eat key nutrients to support your unique needs during each phase of the cycle. Follicular phase. So the follicular phase starts the first day after your period ends. So if your period ends on day 5, your follicular phase is going to start on day 6. That's why everyone's cycle is very different. You might have a 24-day cycle, you might have a 28-day cycle, you might have a 32-day cycle. I suggest the app Flow for tracking your cycle. It's free. Think of it as the spring phase of your cycle where your ovaries are preparing to ripen in an egg. The pituitary gland releases a hormone called a follicle stimulating hormone, or you might know it as FSH. FSH stimulates the follicles, which contains a woman's eggs in one of the ovaries to mature. In response, the pituitary gland then starts to release a luteinizing hormone, or LH, which is responsible for ovulation. Under normal circumstances, only one of these follicles will ripen and become mature. So that is the follicular phase. It's getting prepared for ovulation. At the beginning of the follicular phase, estrogen and testosterone levels are typically low. They slowly ramp up during this phase, and as this happens, you'll begin to experience a boost in energy and mood and brain skills. And this is why men don't struggle like women because they've got a consistent level of testosterone, whereas we don't. You'll start to feel more confident, powerful, and more willing to take risk. Testosterone starts to stimulate your libido, which also makes you feel a little bit bolder. As ovulation approaches, the uterus lining thickens in preparation for pregnancy. The cervix remains low and closed, but gradually opens and starts producing wetter cervical fluid. This is an important time to eat foods that will balance estrogen production because we like estrogen. As it ramps up, foods like pumpkin and flax seeds will help build estrogen, as well as pomegranate and sprouted beans. Healthy fats like avocados, coconut oil, nuts, seeds, and grass-fed ghee or butter are also crucial as they help regulate leptin levels. So leptin levels is your body's satiety hormone, which is needed to sustain your menstrual cycle. So your body has enough energy to develop and release the follicle. Again, I'm going to show you a diagram at the end of some foods, but we really want to be concentrating on healthy fats and sprouted beans, which we should be eating all the time anyway. Oxidative stress on your body also tends to be high before ovulation. So, eating colourful, well rounded foods, things like vitamin C, so things like citrus, grapes, peppers, berries, as well as sulfur rich vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, bok choy, cabbage, can help fight free radicals and detoxification. So things like lentils, gluten-free grains, so things like oats, quinoa, salmon, eggs, nuts, seeds, and oysters are all rich in vitamins and minerals that your body needs to gear up for proper maturation of the egg and rebuilding your uterine lining. And this is really worth noting as well because obviously I coach clients who are trying to get pregnant who are pregnant as well. So understanding this is putting you in the best place if you are struggling with conception because again, not that I'm saying it's a bad thing, but I don't feel like the NHS or doctors are funded well enough to really dive deep into this with people before putting them on an IVF list. The amount of clients, and again, I'm not saying I'm somebody that creates pregnancies, but have come to me to lose weight because they want to fall pregnant, and within a couple of months of just changing their diet have fallen pregnant. And I truly believe it's not necessarily fat loss that has also helped, but it's getting them eating whole foods and getting their body in a stronger position to ovulate and have a strong ovulation process. Ovulation, so it's going to occur typically between days 12 to 17 of your cycle, and it's referred to as the summer. So if you think of it, spring into summer phase of your cycle, when the egg is released from the ovary, this phase is short, only lasting about 2 to 3 days, which sucks because why do we only get 2 to 3 days of ovulation, but we get like 10 days of the shit? Right before ovulation, there's a surge of what we call sing hormone or luteal sing hormone, LH, which causes a dominant follicle to burst open and release an egg into the fallopian tube. This egg will be viable for roughly 12 to 24 hours, and if not fertilized, it will disintegrate. This is obviously the time where you're at peak chance of getting pregnant. The only reason why you can get pregnant on the run up to ovulation is because sperm can stay alive like in the uterus for 5 days, but you can only actually get pregnant realistically for 5 to 7 days of your cycle. And if we knew all this at school, we wouldn't all be pumping ourselves with hormonal contraception for decades because it can be avoided if you check your temperature, check your cycle, you've got to be on it, but you don't need hormonal contraception not to get pregnant, but we all just think we can get pregnant all the time. It's not the case because once that egg is gone, it's gone. There's nothing to fertilize. Yeah. The cervix moves higher up the egg so it can get the best sperm, meaning the sperm has to swim further to get the egg. Only the fittest sperm will survive this seemingly long journey up the cervix, through the uterus, and up one of the fallopian tubes. Additionally, the cervix will become soft and open. The cervical fluid is considered to be fertile during this phase. Cool. I feel like I'm giving a sex ed conversation here. We will get, we'll get to more stuff. Ovulation. So levels of estrogen and testosterone at their peak. Women often report looking and feeling more attractive during this time, and their sex drive tends to be highest. We are animals at the end of the day. We are at a high peak of the ability to fall pregnant. So we need to feel attractive. I don't know if you guys see it, but like them weeks where your face doesn't look right and you feel just awful. And then you've got ovulation where you feel like you look attractive. It's all um on the basis of us needing to reproduce. That's all it is. Yeah, Carly, biology is so cool. It is because, our system is saying, right, it's time to reproduce now. We're at highest point of fertility. We're going to look good. We're going to feel good. But for what we need to know is we need to hit some PBs in the gym and utilize that. After all, the body's programmed to maximize genetic potential. So naturally, it's going to get you in the mood to get on during your window of fertility. Again, because estrogen is at its peak, it's helpful to eat foods that will support liver detoxification of potentially harmful excess estrogen. So things like Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, turnips, cauliflower, bok choy, broccoli are awesome choices for this time in the cycle. Light but nourishing, so vitamin and mineral rich options such as quinoa, brown rice, leafy greens, nutrient rich veggies, cold water fish are also great go-tos during this time, as our appetite tends to be suppressed due to our hormones shifting from feeding to foraging mode to sexual desire mode. So you'll notice, like, I certainly do. I struggle to get my food down during this phase. So having things that are a bit lighter on the stomach, a bit easier to eat, again, fish is a great one, is going to help you still hit those macronutrients during that time. Luteal phase. So this phase lasts about 10 to 14 days, roughly days 14 to 28 of your cycle, and is referred to as fall season. So when it starts getting grey at 3 o'clock, it starts pissing it down. It's important that the luteal phase falls within this time frame to be considered an optimal fertile cycle. Because a fertilized egg usually takes at least 10 days to travel from the fallopian tubes and implant into uterine lining. After ovulation, FSH and LH levels sharply decline and remain low for the rest of the cycle. Estrogen and testosterone will decline as well, but estrogen will make another appearance later on the luteal phase. On the other hand, progesterone rises and stimulates growth of the lining of the uterus in preparation for pregnancy. It is also responsible for transforming cervical fluid from stretching red to sticking dry in this phase, aka it's much less fertile and not conductive to sperm. So this is why, speaking, you cannot get pregnant in your luteal phase. Again, this is why cycle tracking is very important because your your essentially your cervical fluid has changed, so it will not cohabit sperm. It will kill it, basically. Luteal phase, emotionally during the first half of the luteal phase, you are often still riding high off the effects of the ovulatory phase or the summer phase. However, as progesterone production increases, you'll find yourself starting to wind down and wanting to avoid the social scene you were seeking in the first half of the cycle. During the second week of the luteal phase, estrogen will rise again slightly to further prepare the uterine lining for pregnancy. If there's no pregnancy, estrogen and progesterone will drop, causing the uterine lining to shed during the bleed or menstruation phase. So, oh, sorry, I put that one in twice. it is important to eat foods that support progesterone production so that it can rise enough to stimulate a healthy growth of your uterine lining. So things like high in zinc and magnesium, so nuts, seed, oysters, beans, vitamin C, citrus leafy greens, peppers, as well as food high in vitamin B6, salmon, bananas, walnuts, all helpful for boosting progesterone levels. You'll also want to keep blood sugar as stable as possible, as progesterone can cause a blood sugar dip. So that's obviously what's normal in the follicular phase. So this dip could particularly explain why so many women struggle with emotional PMS symptoms like moodiness, anxiety. Again, remember to eat a consistent, nutrient-dense, balanced meals with protein, fats, and fiber for optimal blood sugar balance. If you guys on the coaching software, you'll see that I've posted a recent post, and Sally, thanks for your comments on that, about sweeteners and about the effect on the blood sugar and things like that. I know it is so harder in this PMS like cycle, but the last thing that we want to do is absolutely be loading ourselves because our blood sugar will not stay stable and it will make your cravings considerably worse throughout your cycle as well. So water retention increases during this time. I notice it in my legs, like I get sock marks because my water retention gets that bad. You will get puffy, you will get bloated. You need to make sure you're drinking enough water, minimum 3 litres, and consuming hydrating fruits and vegetables. During this phase, our feel-good hormone like serotonin and dopamine will decrease. So that is why we want to kill everyone, which can not only lead to feelings of stress or sadness, but major cravings for sweets and carbohydrates. So a lot of the time, the cravings of sweets and carbohydrates, it's becoming from a lack of dopamine, because we're trying to get a dopamine fix, which is a learned behavior that we get it from high carb, high sugar food. So again, when I talk about, I think it was a binge and emotional eating masterclass, we need to fix the dopamine problem, not the temporary plaster, which is the shit food. So again, but leaves us feeling worse in the long run. Make sure to reach for treats or carbohydrate-rich options that have plenty of nutrients, protein, fat, and fiber to help you get your sweet fix without the subsequent sugar crash. Menstruation phase. So this typically lasts 3 to 7 days and will begin when menstruation or bleeding occurs as the lining of the uterus shreds. This is known as the winter season of the cycle. Supplement dopamine, yeah, antidepressants. Antidepressants. So again, I don't advise on things like that because obviously I'm not well versed on it. But I do know obviously from experience working with clients, fluoxetine seems to be the best one with the least side effects. I would also say vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency can really cause depression. Obviously, we get vitamin D from the sun, and especially going into the winter of the months. So that's why SAD exists, seasonal depression. You can actually get lamps, sunlight lamps. Notice massive differences with that with some of my clients, and vitamin D supplements as well during the winter. So always try something like that first, especially like when you start to feel your mood shift when it gets to darker weather. But generally speaking, most people are vitamin D deficient. So during this week, your energy is the lowest. It will be during your cycle. You may feel tired, withdrawn, and introspective. So that is normal. So, what foods do we eat? Comfort foods. Start making yourself some really decent comfort foods. So things like soups, bone broth, stews. These will massively help replenish lost iron and mineral stores. We obviously lose blood, we lose salt, we get dehydrated, and we lose iron. So this is a time you should be eating red meat pretty much all the time if you're a meat eater anyway, like every 1 to 2 days to keep your iron levels reasonable. But think of grass-fed animal proteins, your lean minced beef, your steak, your beef joints. What I really like to do, especially when it's menstruation phase, is just buy a massive joint of beef and put it in the slow cooker, and then it'll just fall apart, and then I can just put it into sandwiches and salads throughout the week, so I know that I'm getting really decent amount of iron-rich food. So leafy green vegetables, again, beans are great. So kidney beans, baked beans, so make yourself a big chili con carne or something like that. And you want to consume plenty of foods rich in vitamin B. So these are going to support energy levels. So think nuts, seeds, eggs, leafy green, mushrooms, dark chocolate. So you can obviously make your comfort foods, but obviously make them in respect of your macros and obviously what is actually going to help you during your menstruation phase. Again, vitamin C rich foods, so citrus, leafy greens, peppers, colourful fruits, which promote iron nutrient absorption. Foods rich in zinc will help remineralize your blood. So things like peanut butter, seaweed, like all these foods that I'm mentioning, guys, like you should pretty much be eating all the time anyway, but it's just worth knowing that, right, red meat, peanut butter, like thinking about these things and just making sure you're not missing them out. Again, you need omega fatty acids, avocados, fish, cod liver oil, hemp, sesame, sunflower seeds, which all work to lower inflammation and boost mood. So that's actually going to help the inflammation that's going on internally and help with the pain. So again, guys, you can take a picture of this or you can screenshot it off the YouTube. But this is just like a visual for you can see. So menstrual flares, because I'm saying the words that much, I can't even say them. Follicular phase, ovulation phase, or luteal phase. So you've got winter, spring, summer, fall. So imagine it in those 4 seasons and it'll hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to remember. Again, this you've got your veggie breakdown, your fruit breakdown, your grains and your nuts and seeds. And then on here, you've got your proteins, your herbs, and your extras. So if you want the YouTube link, maybe screenshot this, pop it on your phone, save it somewhere. So then when it is that time, you can look through and just make sure you're including some of these foods because it will make the world of difference, I promise you. How to support your follicular phase. So since your energy is higher, this is a great time for hitting PBs and really pushing yourself in the gym. Mindset. Due to increased focus and creativity, this is an optimal time for initiating new projects, brainstorming and problem solving, dreaming, meal planning, trying new things, and stepping outside your comfort zone. And when you start to really ground yourself with what phase you're in, it will really help you in terms of like work projects, for example, like self-development projects that you want to do. If you want to pick up a new habit, it's always a lot easier during your follicular phase. I will usually do creative things. So, like, I'll build these presentations in my follicular phase because I know that it's a lot easier. My brain's sharper. I'm not getting annoyed. I'll try make a lot of content and stuff like that because I will come across nicer. So, just think about phases, yeah. Like, if you've got like your house to clean or you've got a big sort out to do, try and time it well. Like, you don't want to plan your entire life around your hormones, of course. We can't just check out in the last week of the month, but it's worth knowing and noting down. Um, again, oh, sorry, I've got that one as a duplicate as well. Ovulation phase, again, 12 to 17 days of your cycle. It's short. Energy is at its highest. If you want to do a big hike or you've always wanted to do something really adventurous, maybe try plan it around your ovulation phase. It will your energy will be at your highest level. You'll be able to keep up with intense workouts. Again, you'll have good creativity, good focus, good communication. This is a great time to connect with friends, family, come up with a fun date night activity at home, write, film, or create content, or have sex if you're trying to get pregnant. So you've got a couple of days there to do all sorts of activities. Luteal phase, again, this phase typically lasts 12 to 16 days and occurs immediately after ovulation. You may still have a lot of energy in the beginning of this phase, but it will likely decrease as you approach your period. Listen to your body and scale back on trying to hit PBs and make sure you're fully warmed up and do plenty of stretches. Mindset, this is a phase of completion before the upcoming rest phase, so it's a great time to finish tasks and projects. Take care of to-do lists and chores, organise your home and office, and add more self-care practices as energy begins to wane. Don't leave all your shit that you've got to do in your life till the end of the month when you're just about to hit menstruation. Like, start getting your house organised, get organised. So then if you do have a couple of rough days, you're not letting life get on top of you. Get your meal prep done, get organised. Be nice to me because that's when you start giving me one word answers and being really mean. And this is where a lot of people want to quit coaching because they think it's not working because they've gained 2 pounds and then they bleed and they're like, oh, sorry, I was just during my period. So, and again, you've got your menstruation phase. So again, strength training. Sorry, I've got a error there. It shouldn't be 12 to 16. It should be 2 to 7. Strength training is still okay during this period, but if you struggle with pain the first 24 or 48 hours, some gentle walking is okay. I like to see when I'm due my period, and then I like to move my training around that. I'm not going to try on day one of my period when I'm in so much pain to go to the gym. Yeah, I'm going to do some gentle walking, some stretching, things like that. I'm not going to push through it if I don't need to. So I'll rearrange my training to still make it work. Again, both spheres of your brain are communicating powerfully during this phase, making it an optimal time for journaling, self-reflection, tapping into your intuition, any form of self-care, especially that it involves rest, heat, Epsom salt baths. This will all help lower cortisol and balance hormones during your period. So big emphasis on this. Cool. Is there any questions on that before I talk about menstrual disorders? And I'm going to go into HRT. I know that I've like steamed through that, but has anyone learned anything from that? Does anyone want to pop in the comment what they've learned and see what has been valuable and what hasn't out of interest? I know there's quite a lot to get through there, guys. You can just pop it in the
Thanks, Sophie.
Oh,
It's actually sorry, I can't. can't put my camera on. I'm not that decent at the moment.
Oh, you're fine,
Um,
you're fine.
yeah, I think the one thing that probably just resonates with me that I'd just like to share is
Yeah,
I went through a period a couple of years back where my emotions were just really low, and I did think maybe I was suffering from the SAD syndrome, which
mhm,
every winter it just felt really hard going.
yeah,
I went to the GP; they weren't very helpful, and it actually was just talking with certain people that made me realize actually vitamin D is essential. So I
yeah,
take it all year round. I think the darker your skin is, the
yeah,
more you should actually take it. So I am on vitamin D all year round. And yeah, it does make an impact. I mean, yeah, definitely. It must be doing something because I'm not feeling as low as much, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for sharing that, Ashley. So again, guys, if like Ashley's just said, if you're feeling like you're suffering with low mood or you're starting to feel like your mood's dropping, especially in these next couple of weeks, again, vitamin D will be your best friend. And again, like Ashley said, the darker your skin color, the more vitamin D you need, which I didn't actually know. But again, it obviously makes sense, doesn't it? Because of where we're born in the world. So that's really, really interesting to know as well, and something that I'll definitely be telling some of my clients. So we've got a couple of things on the chat. Learning about why I feel at certain points of the cycle that is normal. Again, just taking it easier on yourself when coming up to your period. I really have to consciously be kinder to myself and understand that I won't always hit BBs. Yeah, grateful. Helpful to think about zooming out rather than looking at the month as a whole rather than reacting to feelings day to day. Again, Leanne, so useful. Thank you so much. Just tips around how to plan your life around cycle is great. It's something we're never taught to think about. Amazing comments, guys. Thank you so much. Learning learning more about how food can impact your cycle is so interesting. Definitely learning about food and can enhance balance hormones. Before coaching with you, I had awful periods. They are 70% less painful. Wow. I'm less emotional and the flow is more consistent, so huge changes in the past few months. Philippa's put any vitamin D supplements that you can recommend. Personally, Philippa, no, I don't take vitamin D, but supplements wise, I do like British supplements. I think it's www.britishsupplements, just because they don't use any fillers or any artificial ingredients. I'm not associated with any supplement company because if you all guys know, I'm quite anti-supplements apart from vitamin D, creatine, magnesium, and fish oil. But British supplements, from what I have gathered, have been the best supplements that you can find because they're very pure and they don't have any fillers. But thanks so much, guys. Again, if there's any questions, any thoughts that pop up in anyone's head, pop them in the comments. Um, Again, I'm going to be going on to kind of the next half now, which is menopause and hormonal conditions. So, PMDD, some of you may have heard of this, some of you may not. I highly suggest if you're a PMDD sufferer or you think you are, follow Vicky Pattison on Instagram because she offers loads of help and advice on this. This is something that I wouldn't say is relatively new, but doctors are just starting to pick up on it and they're just starting to treat it. Um, I'm sure we've probably most of been in a position where we've really struggled with the doctors when it comes to like periods. Like I used to go to be like, oh, I've been on a period for 3 months, and they're like, oh yeah, that sounds like a regular cycle. I'm like, right, okay. But PMDD is essentially premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So it's severe mood swings leading to cycle, and it affects 5 to 8% of women, which is staggering. Eight up to 8% of women, and I think this will be more. People are just not getting diagnosed with it. Um, um, so people are just not getting diagnosed with it, which is uh, obviously a problem because there's a lot of it's a severe mental condition, and it's really really important that we do understand about this. And this is why I'm putting it in there because people might think, oh, maybe that could be me, and then you could maybe get help for it. So it's hormone related mood disorder. Symptoms occur in the luteal phase after ovulation before period. Symptoms resolve shortly after menstruation begins. Again, guys, PMDD and PMS are two separate things. With PMS, which we pretty much 95% of women I think get, is when you feel a bit moody, a bit grumpy, like you're pissed off, like you're a bit stressed out, like everything's harder, your body temperature goes up, like you will receive things. This is PMD is where you think your life's going to end. Like it's just, you just cannot see a way through. It is severe. Yeah. So severe mood swings, irritability, anger, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, hopelessness. Hopelessness is probably the best word to describe it. You just don't think there's any hope. Again, bloating, breast tenderness, headache, and fatigue. So, causes and risk factors linked to sensitivity to hormone fluctuations, serotonin dysregulation, family history of mood disorders, high stress levels. Again, you can do things like exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress management. You can do things like CBT and counseling. You can have hormonal contraceptives, SSRIs, and severe cases, you can have surgery. But that is rare and last resort. And again, it's very rare. Again, when it comes to things like PMS and PMDD, I've had a lot of clients who have suffered with both, and a lot of the time, again, not all of the time, putting them into a routine, whole food diet, getting them exercising massively reduces their symptoms of PMDD. So again, it's just worth noticing. And if you genuinely think that you suffer with PMDD, go see your GP, because the more that this is kind of spoken about and normalized, the more funding is going to go into it and helping people out. Again, PMDD and fat loss, emotional eating cravings. PMDD increases cravings for high sugar and high fat foods due to serotonin fluctuations. Low energy and motivation, so fatigue and depression make training and activity harder. Hormonal stress response, elevated cortisol from mood disturbances can hinder fat loss and cycle disruption, so water retention and bloating can mask progress on the scale. Key point, PMDD doesn't stop fat loss, but it can make it consistent, can make consistency and adherence much harder, which I have noticed with clients with PMDD, especially from the mood perspective. Again, guys, just to mention, because this is something that I'm thinking of maybe doing later this year or early next year, of going into companies and talking about hormones to directors, CEOs for the women in the company. So like running masterclasses like this, but for companies for free. So like teaching them about hormones, about menopause and about menstruation, about things like PMDD. Because I think a lot of the time in the workplace as well, having period pains or going through this, especially if you've got a male director or they don't know about things like this, it can really impact like your work performance. It can really, really impact your ability to work as well. And I think if more people in the work life knew what female hormones were like, it would make adaptations a lot easier. So if any of you think that it would benefit your company, let me know. What I'm planning on doing is reaching out to HR, talent teams, people teams, and offering to go into the company for free, either physically or virtually on Zoom, and teach everybody about this as such, with more actionable steps as well. Um, so I put that sounds a great idea. PMDD, so how to explain to people without going into details. Yeah. So hopelessness is probably like a really good word to use. I know it's obviously a hard topic to talk about. Carly's put fun fact, women were banned from clinical trials until the 1980s, so scientists literally couldn't study women's health issues until then. No wonder we are so behind. I recommend listening to Working Hard or Hardly Working podcast episode with the founder of Hertility, where she covers a lot of the history and gaps in women's health research. How cool. Thanks so much for sharing that, Carla. And this is the issue, isn't it? Because the fact that women don't even hear of PMDD and the amount of clients that I've said, look into PMDD because that might be something you're suffering with. And they're like, oh my God, this is me. Like I finally feel like I know what's going on. But we're not taught any of this, which is just bizarre, which is obviously why I started the Elevate program to teach everyone. So you got PCOS. This is what I have, polycystic ovary syndrome. It's a very common condition. It says affecting 8 to 13% of women of reproductive age. I would say this is more like 25% personally. Again, we're not being diagnosed. Involves irregular ovulation, excess androgens, and polycystic ovaries. It can impact fertility, metabolism, and long-term health. Again, characterized by irregular menstrual cycles. I have a completely regular menstrual cycle now. I've lost weight and sorted obviously my diet and exercise out. It is on the dot. So you can hopefully improve your symptoms. High androgen, again, this is your male hormone. The benefit that I'd say from PCOS is that you usually have higher testosterone, so you can build muscle a little bit better. So I see it as positive. Again, multiple small follicles, cysts on ovaries. Symptoms vary widely from person to person. I've got a video on my Instagram actually about PCOS. Again, reproductive, irregular, absent periods, infertility, or difficulty conceiving. When you've got PCOS, this is why you've got to be careful with things like natural cycling because your ovulation might not be on those exact days if you have irregular periods. Acne, excess hair growth, scalp hair thinning, weight gain, especially around the abdomen, metabolic, insulin resistance, and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. If you have got PCOS, the best thing that you can do is get your weight into a healthy level, I promise you, because all these issues are far, far worse when you carry excess weight. Causes and risk factors. The cause is unknown. Shock. When it comes to women's health, they don't know what causes it. Linked to genetics and environment, insulin resistance and high insulin levels worsen symptoms. Family history increases. Again, so the diagnosis is something called the Rotterdam criteria. An irregular absent ovulation, high androgen levels, and polycystic ovaries found on ultrasound. I had an ultrasound and I had blood tests, I think, all them years ago. Other conditions must be ruled out, thyroid, adrenal disorders. The only thing is, when you get diagnosed with PCOS, there isn't a cure. So you can get diagnosed, but I always say clients who are battling to get diagnosed, it's not really, it's not a massive, massive benefit because same with PMDD, there's nothing really that they're going to do for you anyway at the moment. Health risks, infertility, gestational diabetes during pregnancy. And if you are planning on having, if you're planning on getting pregnant, you've got PCOS, try and get your weight down if you can, because it will massively reduce the chances of you getting gestational diabetes. Gestational diabetes is not what you want during your pregnancy. It just makes everything far harder. Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, sleep apnea, depression, or anxiety. Management and treatment. Again, lifestyle, regular exercise, balanced diet, weight management. Again, they can do things like birth control. I'm going to come on this to regulate cycle and reduce androgens, metformin for insulin resistance, and fertility treatments if trying to conceive. One massive, massive thing is stress reduction. Again, I know, guys, if you've been through the Elevate program, like, and I have the stress reduction target that I put in for you, I don't do it for a laugh. It massively helps fat loss, and especially if you've got PCOS. Again, tracking cycles and support networks. Cool. PCOS and fat loss, insulin resistant, so it makes fat storage easier and fat loss slower. I want you to take everything that I say again with a pinch of salt, guys, because it makes fat storage easier and fat loss slower. That does not mean fat loss is impossible. The amount of videos that I see online or comments on Facebook groups and TikToks, oh, well, I've got PCOS, I can't lose weight. It's bollocks, you know. It's just can be a little bit slower and a little bit harder, not impossible. Yeah, it's completely possible. I mean, I've lost 125 pounds and I've got PCOS, and that's a lot of weight. Hormonal imbalance. So high androgens can influence fat distribution. Again, more abdominal fat. Most of my fat is stored on my abdomen, on my stomach. No matter how lean I get, I will probably never have a six pack, and I've accepted that, and that's okay because my fat comes off my back first. My back gets very, very lean, and then it'll come off my arms, and then it'll come off my legs, then it'll come off my face, my stomach. I did a cut, I think it was like 12 to 18 months ago, quite a significant cut, whereas at my lowest body weight ever. I was kind of doing a test run to see if I could compete one day, and my stomach still was not lean enough for a stage comp, even though I was actually probably classed as underweight at the time. So we all have different kind of areas of fat storage, but if you've got PCOS, it's going to tend to be your stomach. Hormonal imbalance, again, irregular cycles, harder to track progress with fluctuating water retention, slower metabolic response. So some women may lose fat at a slightly slower rate, even with the same calories. But it's the same thing, guys, like with thyroid. Thyroid, like underactive thyroid, it's about, I think the worst case of underactive thyroid they found was 150 calories a day. That's like two custard creams. So it's not like hundreds and hundreds of calories out, like we're talking minute amounts. Key points, fat loss is possible with PCOS, but often requires more patience, guys, higher protein intake, and consistent lifestyle strategies. Again, they did a study, 2016, diabetes care, resistance training improved insulin sensitivity by 30% in women with PCOS. Resistance training, our strength training, our weight training. That's why I'm so big on it. Again, shameless selfie, but I lost 125 pounds of PCOS. It's possible. Cool. Strategies for fat loss with PCOS and PMDD. Nothing that I wouldn't advise somebody without these. Prioritize high protein, high fiber meals to reduce cravings and support satiety. Focus on low GI carbs. Again, low GI carbs, I mean things like potatoes, brown bread, rather than your white bread and your pasta. Again, rice and pasta is still okay, but you want to reduce insulin spikes. Oats are a great one. Plan ahead for high craving days, luteal phase or PMDD flare-ups with balanced snacks. Again, if you really suffer with PMDD or you suffer with really intense cravings, which I do have clients that do, I have them on higher calories in that week and then slightly lower calories on the other 3 weeks. The reason why I don't like doing this, especially for clients who are just, oh, I just crave a bit of sugar, I would much rather you have a decent amount of calories all month round because obviously it's going to support your muscle growth. And in ovulation, when we're building more muscle because we're training harder, we don't then want to be on lower calories because we're not going to recover as quick. So this is worst case scenario, but you can adjust your calories if you need to, if the PMDD is that bad or the PCOS. Again, strength training builds muscle, improves insulin sensitivity. Low impact cardio, walking and cycling helps manage stress and energy levels. Be flexible, adjust intensity during symptomatic phases instead of stopping completely. Mindset and lifestyle, track your cycles to anticipate challenging phases. Prioritize sleep and stress management to keep cortisol in check. Use self-compassion. Fluctuations in weight slash bloating are not fat gain. You can you can gain and lose 3 to 7 pounds in a 4 week period. And that's why when I'm seeing on your check-ins that you're weighing in every day, I'll tell you off because it's just pointless exercise. It's so pointless. Again, professional support coach me and can make a huge difference because I can talk you down or talk you out of things when you're actually having a nervy bee. How hormones influence fat loss. So this is where we're going to get into the menopause piece. Again, if you're not of menopause age, guys, it's still worth sitting through this because we're all going to hit menopause. I just think this the other day, I was like, oh God, when your period finishes, menopause starts. Like, how lucky are we? Like, we don't even get any break. We don't even get a couple of years off. It's just one straight into the other. However, so estrogen. So obviously we love estrogen, and that enhances fat metabolism, and insulin sensitivity. So we love estrogen because that's what happens when we're getting prepared for ovulation. What happens with age? Estrogen drops. So it's a 35% reduction from ages 35 to 50. Shit, I've only got 5 years. And then progesterone, so that also drops as well. So it's a 75% reduction from ages 35 to 50. Testosterone supports muscle maintenance and fat oxidation, and cortisol is a chronic stress hormone leading to abdominal fat storage. So testosterone drops, cortisol goes up. Fabulous. So as you can see, these are our two really important hormones, and these start declining. This is why I say the younger you can start this journey, the better, because you're going to build so much decent muscle between like the ages of 20 and 35. Not that you can't build muscle after 35, but utilize while you've got a really high level of these hormones. It's really important. Oh, what have we got in here? Oh, everyone's talking about the age. Oh, yeah. Oh, Ashley's put, thanks, Ashley, for that recommendation of the vitamin D. Sally, I turned 36 in January, so it's downhill from here, Joy. Um, oh my God, that's so weird. So, if that you'd notice that in avocados. Crazy. Anyway, cool. So, birth control. So, Nat, I think Nat, you've just come back in, haven't you? Because I was just thinking, where's Nat? She'll probably want to listen to this bit. So, again, guys, please take this with a pinch of salt. I am not a doctor. This is just obviously the education that I've got. I don't want to be you telling you to go take a certain pill or do anything, but I'm going to give you the facts and you can make your own decision. No, you're all right, Nat. So combined pill. So benefit. So we're thinking about birth control now. Sorry, I should have put these a few slides back. I don't know why that's got mixed up. As you can see, this deck is 80. I've got 80 slides on this deck. It took me about 3 weeks to write this. But anyway, so combined pill. So this is I would advise combined pill birth control for PCOS or PMDD. That's where you get estrogen and progesterone. So you get both hormones. Again, it regulates periods because it reduces risks of hyperplasma from irregular cycles. It lowers testosterone levels, so that can improve things like acne and excess hair growth, which is a symptom. Can help with cycle predictability and heavy bleeding. And benefits for PMDD. Again, things like Yaz or Yasmin are often prescribed because they can stabilize hormone fluctuations that trigger the PMDD symptoms. It may improve mood symptoms in some women. Again, weight effects. Most studies show that COCP does not cause significant long-term weight gain. Everyone is scared of weight gain. There is most studies, they have to put it down as a side effect, even if 1% or 1% of people got it as a side effect. It is not really a massive side effect, so I wouldn't worry about it. Again, it can help reduce fluid retention, which helps avoid hormonal bloat. Again, the risks, high risk of blood clots, especially if overweight, smoker, or have family history, and it may worsen migraines with aura or increase blood pressure. So that is what I would recommend for hormonal birth control, personally. The combined. Have we got anything else in here? Oh, we're just having a chat about the avocados. How cool, I'm going to come back to that. Um, Again, progesterone only pill, so this is without the estrogen. Benefits of PCOS, it protects the uterine lining if you don't ovulate regularly. Can I say that word correctly? This is what happens when you talk for like 50 minutes straight. Option if estrogen is not safe, again, migraines, clotting, breastfeeding. Does not lower testosterone and it won't improve acne. Often causes irregular, unpredictable bleeding. So for me personally, would never. For PMDD, not generally effective. In fact, some people notice worse than mood swings. Evidence suggests POP is more linked to weight changes than combined pills, especially in those prone to fluid retention or appetite changes. So do your own research, but in my opinion, for the progesterone only. Again, some rare PCOS and PMDD, the combined pill is usually more beneficial than the progesterone only. The combined pill offers cycle control, testosterone reduction, and potential mood stabilization with less likelihood of weight gain compared to the progesterone only pill. The POP is more reserved for women who cannot take estrogen. Then you'll still ovulate, so you still should have a regular cycle and you should still bleed that, but it depends what hormone you're on. Again, the mini pill, which is usually the progesterone only, you take it all the time, but then you can have irregular bleeding, which is hard to then navigate when you're ovulating, if that makes sense. Back to menopause, since I did that in a weird order. So menopause, you are officially menopause if you've had 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period. You can go to your doctors and get a blood test and they can confirm it. Average age is 51 years old. Normal age is 45 to 55. Perimenopause is 2 to 10 years before menopause when you start getting fluctuating hormones. Um, oh my God, what else? My favorite birth control fact is there's no medical reason to have a bleed week. It was done originally to appease the Pope in getting approved. No way, as if we've all got these facts and figures. Um, Personally, like if you can with birth control, it's all personal preference, but having a bleed week then allows you to track your cycle. So that's why I do advise it. Not so much having the bleed, but then you know when you ovulate, you know when you're bleeding, and it helps again do all the other stuff that we spoke about. Um, Perimenopause, 2 to 10 years before menopause, fluctuating hormones. Postmenopause, after final period, elevated FSH/LH, low estradiol or progesterone. Irregular cycles and symptoms equal failure, they signal transition. So that is essentially menopause. Understanding menopausal fat gain. Women gain approximately 1.5 kilos per year during menopause, totaling around 10 kilos by menopause. So that's about 22 pounds. I like to work in pounds, but I know you guys like to work in kg. Uh, so that's why I put it in kg. Fat distribution, increased abdominal and visceral fat due to reduced estrogen levels. Yeah, because the estrogen's not there. Metabolic changes, decreased basal metabolic rate and muscle mass. Again, guys, most of menopausal fat gain is down to lifestyle. And I know that's really, really hard to think of because you think, shit, like, oh, I was skinny in my 20s and I ate all this food and now I get in my 40s, I'm getting all this weight and I can't do anything about it. It's not the case, which I'm going to talk about. Carly just popped about the hormonal. I'm on the Marina IUS and it's great for minimal side effects and stop periods, but I agree with what you just said about a bleed week because the IUS is constant and then it's impossible to track where I am in the cycle. Yeah, so the thing is like hormonal contraception like that can be great because again it can reduce a lot of symptoms, but it's just very, very hard to track your cycle with. So again, it's personal preference, and that's why I don't want to push anything on anybody. And this is just advice. You know, don't be coming off all hormonal contraception and then say I need to pay child support because I told you that you could natural cycle. Um, yeah, I track based on my rage, which is a great one as well. You know, track your symptoms, and that's what I say for my clients that are on hormonal contraception. We guesstimate the part of the cycle that they're on as well. Um, I've actually started testing LH to see if I can find ovulation that way. Yeah, ovulation test strips as well. You can use them. Um, yeah, copper coil. Again, it's non-hormonal. Again, the only advice I wouldn't give for a copper coil is if you do struggle with PMS and PCOS, it can make periods heavier. So just be careful of that. It's really hard because when you see doctors, they will always push what they think on you. So it's always best you going and doing on your own research because I've had so much different advice over the years. Sorry, guys, back to menopause for menopausal guys. So again, metabolic changes decrease basal metabolic rate and muscle mass. One of the biggest reasons why you're gaining fat during the menopause is you are losing muscle tissue. So we're losing 8 to 10% of muscle mass per decade after the age of 20. So you can imagine you're getting your 40s and going into your 50s. If you've not strength trained and you've not had an active life where you've physically lifted weights, your muscle mass is rock bottom. When you have muscle mass is rock bottom, your metabolism is rock bottom, and fat gain is a lot easier. That's why I say the younger you can do this and the quicker you can build muscle, the more protected your results are going to be, and the less likely you're ever going to struggle with menopausal fat gain because you've got the muscle mass there. Yeah. Understanding menopausal fat gain, hormonal factors. So decreased estrogen, increase in visceral tissues, increasing ghrelin. So ghrelin's your hunger hormone. That increases, so you feel hungry more frequently. Decrease in testosterone, decrease in progesterone. Again, age-related factors, decrease in RMR, decrease in energy expenditure, early final menstruation period, early onset menopause, decrease in lean muscle mass. Sorry, there's something else in the chat. Yeah, don't worry, Sally, you're fine. Lifestyle factors, again, this is a big one. Physical activity, diet, evening chronotype. So evening chronotype is the chronotype in which we sleep. So like you might realize that you're awake later and you're really struggling to get to sleep. Smoking, alcohol intake. Yeah. Effects on cardiovascular disease. So you've got increase in waist circumference, increase in LDL, increase in total body fat percentage, increased blood pressure, increased VAT and SAT, and increase in risk for metabolic syndrome. So again, getting yourself in the best position both before menopause, perimenopause, while you're active in the menopause will massively help all these issues that occur. Again, these are just a couple of clients that have helped in menopause, massively reduce their visceral fat. So it's completely possible. So there's just two examples there for you. I'll show you some more examples at the end as well. So hormonal shift, excuse me, estrogen, so that's mood, sleep, bone, heart health impacted, progesterone, more sleep issues, anxiety. FSH, LH, its pituitary signals harder, body fat pattern shifts, and more abdominal and visceral fat. I'm going to talk about HIT as well, guys, but like depression and anxiety, just from obviously coaching so many people, can go through the roof and you can end up quite depressed with bad anxiety and with major sleep issues. There is no kind of harm if you do need things like antidepressants, vitamin D, a sleep supplement just to get you through certain periods of time. It might just be temporary, but your mental health is so important. So please do get help if you do go down that road because it can be very depressing and a very dark time for a lot of women. Why fat gain happens? Energy expenditure. So 50 to 200 calories a day with age. Again, your energy expenditure starts decreasing the amount of calories you're burning because you're losing muscle. If you are building muscle, you're not going to be losing this, yeah? It's just because people go to menopause and they're not consistently strength trained and they're losing all the muscle mass and their energy expenditure is going down. Estrogen loss, so lower insulin sensitivity, muscle loss, visceral fat, even if weight stays stable, sleep disruption. Again, sleep's massive. Night sweats, anxiety, worrying about life, like up late at night. You basically, your ghrelin and your leptin, the feeling of fullness and the feeling of hunger, are completely out of whack. So you don't feel full as quick and you feel hungry more frequently. That's not a menopause problem, that is a sleep problem because obviously the menopause is impacting your sleep, which is affecting your ability to understand when you're full and understand when you're hungry. So you're going to overeat. Again, things like anxiety and depression are going to impact dopamine. Where we're going to want to get our dopamine from? Our food. So again, I say it's lifestyle because it's a lot of the symptoms that are causing us to be overeating and not moving as much. It's not actually the body, if that makes sense. Stress and cortisol, again, you're stressed, you're worried about life, you're anxious. That is going to increase cortisol production, which increases cravings and stores abdominal fat. Yeah, so that's why it happens. Symptom landscape, hot flushes, night sweats is 60 to 80%, sleep disturbances is 60, mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, joint pain, headaches, palpitations, UTIs, libido changes. I mean, how excited are we all for those who have not hit that yet? Muscle loss accelerates without strength training, bone density declines fastest in peri and then early menopause. Um, Khalid, what sounds fun? Yeah, I'll have 50 years of PCOS and then I'll have 20 years of this. Fabulous. Prioritize heavy resistance, protein, impact, and loading. Again, DEXA scans can help track bone and muscle, but it's not really necessary. I've never done a DEXA scan, but it can obviously help you track it. Again, nutritional playbook. 25 to 40 grams of protein at each meal. Everyone should be doing that anyway, but it's even more important. Fiber, 25 to 35 grams a day. I do not want to see these averages of 12 grams of fibre a day on people's checking forms. I've put Salia's MyFitnessPal on the community forum. She gets at least 30 grams a day and she's in a well, you're slowly on a build phase now, but I think you're only still on about 1700 calories. We've not pushed calories too high yet. Go have a look at her food diary and get some more inspiration. Fibre is so important. Smart carbs, again, low GI daily, higher GI near training. Healthy fats, olive oil, nuts, omega-3s. Again, that's going to help your hormone production. Structure, 2 to 4 meals a day, reduce late night grazing, hydration and electrolytes. Again, you can have electrolytes for sweats because you're losing a lot of salt as well. Or just sprinkle a little bit of Salt in your water. That's what I like to do. Resistance, 2 to 4 days a week, 6 to hard sets per muscle per week. Reps, 5 to 12 with progressive overload. Cardio, steady state, walking, cycling, hiking. None of this 500 burpees and pump classes, please. Daily mobility and pelvic floor awareness. Again, strength training can really help your pelvic floor as well. Sleep and stress tools, consistent wake and sleep times, dark, cool bedroom, breathable bedding, limit caffeine after midday, alcohol close to bed, evening wind down, journaling, stretching, breath work, morning daylight for circadian rhythm. I've talked about this in the stress and sleep routine, guys. I can't stress this enough. We should all be getting light on our face, ideally within 30 minutes of waking up. That is what optimizes our circadian rhythm. It doesn't even matter if it's not cracking the flags outside. Within half an hour waking up, just go to a window or just step outside and get some daylight on your face. That is what manages circadian rhythm. I don't even know how I used to survive because I used to just get up, like go to the train station in the pitch black, jump on the train, and then just go into an office for like 12 hours a day with no natural lighting in it. And like no wonder I couldn't sleep and I was like riddled with anxiety and I couldn't lose weight because I literally just didn't ever see daylight. So just if you're struggling with your sleep, get some daylight on your face first thing in the morning or do it anyway because it's going to regulate you. Medical options, again, estrogen, progesterone, benefits, symptom relief, bone protection, better sleep, risk depending on age, dose, and history. Best window under 60 or 10 years since menopause, non-hormonal. So, again, you can have like vaginal estrogen and things like that. I'm going to talk about the different types. I don't know why so many women are scared of HRT. It's one of the best things that you can do if you hit perimenopause. It will really, really help. You might try one and it might not work for you. There's so many different options. So please try HRT if you can. Again, supplements for this, protein powder, convenience. There's no magic around that. Omega-3, again, probably should all be taking omega-3. None of us probably eat enough fish. Vitamin D, again, most people should take vitamin D unless they live in a beautifully sunny country. Magnesium glycinate, again, 200 to 400 milligram for sleep. Creatine, 3 to 5 grams a day. Strength and cognition. So that is what I would advise for especially menopausal, but anybody. HRT, again, estrogen role. So after menopause, estrogen levels drop. Again, we love estrogen, guys. That is like the spring and the summer of our life. Metabolism slows, fat distribution shifts towards the abdomen and muscle mass declines. HRT won't cause weight loss. What I think a lot of women mistake is they start to hit perimenopause, they go on HRT and they go, the HRT is causing the weight gain. It's not, it's the perimenopause, and then they link HRT with weight gain, and then so many people get scared of HRT. Um, I don't think my mum's on this. My mum should be on this, but I was having this battle with my mum because she kept coming off HRT thinking it was making her gain weight. I was like, the HRT is not making you gain weight. Keeping coming off it and then being erratic, towards me is causing the weight gain because she's stressed. I said, get back on HRT. So again, it's a conversation that I have all the time. It usually won't cause weight gain. It's obviously the menopause that's causing the weight gain. But estrogen replacement can reduce abdominal fat accumulation, improve insulin sensitivity, help maintain lean body mass, and make it easier to manage weight with diet and exercise. Do you guys notice the link between this and the pill? So when we're thinking about the combined pill, the estrogen progesterone, that's why it can massively help the symptoms of PCOS. Because if you think about it, the symptoms of PCOS and PMDD is very, very similar to menopause. So HRT is just a type of hormone replacement therapy. So is the pill. It's a hormone replacement therapy. Yeah, so that's why if you're struggling with hormonal imbalance, like the pill can be beneficial. I just don't want to push anything on anybody because I personally came off all contraception and just went into natural cycling, but it can help in certain instances. Best HRT options for weight and body composition. Again, the estrogens, you can do a patch, you can do a gel, you can do a spray. Delivers estrogen steadily, avoiding liver metabolism, lower clot risk compared to oral forms, linked with better outcomes for fat distribution and metabolic health. Micronized progesterone, again, when the uterus is intact, progesterone is needed alongside estrogen. So if you take one, you have to take the other. Micronized progesterone has fewer negative mood or weight-related side effects than usual synthetic ones. You've then got estradiol and micronized progesterone, which is the gold standard. So that is basically you take estradiol via patch or gel and then an oral micronized progesterone. Best evidence for safety, symptom control, and metabolic benefits. Tibolone, which is synthetic steroid with estrogen, progesterone, and androgen activity. So sometimes prescribed instead of the standard HRT, can improve libido, mood, and bone health, may reduce fat mass, but evidence is mixed compared to standard estradiol. From experience, again, obviously I've not gone through the menopause yet. The patches are the best, and they don't give you them because they're expensive. You've got to ask for them. So if anyone's interested, the patches. Again, keynotes. Weight gain in menopause is mostly age and lifestyle related, but HRT helps prevent the shift towards visceral fat. The transdermal estradiol and micronized progesterone combo is considered the best for body composition and lowest risk profile. Adding resistance training and adequate protein has synthetic effect. HRT preserves the hormonal environment whilst training and maintains lean mass. Again, the most effective HRT for menopausal women is to reduce fat gain is the estradiol combined with the micronized progesterone. It won't make weight fall off, but it reduces visceral fat accumulation, protects muscle mass, and improves overall metabolic health. Worth noting. Again, a couple of clients here. Nikki believes 48, and then Lisa is 59. So it just shows, I mean, look at like, it doesn't really matter what age you are. You can build a lot of lean muscle mass. You know, Nikki's probably giving me a run for the money with those shoulders and biceps, let's be honest. So again, 17 pounds lost, a lot of visceral fat lost, lot strong and lean. Lisa, 59, again, a little bit post-menopause, but she's off 55 pounds. She was 205. I think she's even down to 145 now. I think she's even lighter. So again, we're not looking at women in their 20s here, yeah, guys. So don't want to hear the excuse of age because I've got countless transformations. Again, why lifestyle matters. So, nutrition, sleep, hydration, and stress control are always going to be your core foundations, hormonal imbalance or not. They influence hormones, mood, metabolism, and body composition. Lifestyle habits can reduce symptoms across PMS, PCOS, PMDD, and menopause. Sleep regulates your hormones. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Sleep loss is ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, goes up. Leptin, your satiated hormone, goes down. I think they did a massive, I can't remember how many people it was, but they did a study on women that were overweight or obese, and over 95% had irregular sleep patterns. You cannot tell me there is not a link between obesity and lack of sleep. There is 100% is. Again, two nights of 4 hours sleep increases hunger and carb cravings by 24%. 24%, which is massive, which is like at least one meal a day. And that's just 2 nights a week. Sleep restriction is linked to reduced muscle recovery. Yeah, so we build muscle in our sleep. So when we're at the gym, we tear muscle, we build it in our sleep. That is when the muscle is built back. If you are not sleeping, you are not building back your muscle. So I know that I go on about you for you guys that have got lack of sleep, and I can see when you're on the app. Sorry, Christina. On the app last night till what bloody time? I can see you. I can see you on the coaching app. Get off the app. Go to bed. And it's so important. Sleep is just massive. Again, hydration and hormonal health. Mild dehydration, which is only 1 to 2% of body weight, is going to reduce your cognition and create fatigue. Adequate fluids improve training, digestion, and temperature regulation. Hydration supports metabolic and cardiovascular health. Again, 3 liters a day, more in hot climates or with exercise or with menopause. It will massively fatigue you being dehydrated. And that's why we've got water targets in every day. Stress and cortisol. Chronic stress is elevated cortisol and increased abdominal fat storage. Cortisol disrupts sleep, appetite, and insulin sensitivity. Higher stress equals a more central edopsy in women. Daily stress management reduces symptoms across all hormonal conditions. All hormonal conditions, like every single hormonal condition. Stress management is reducing symptoms through everything. So it's crazy. It's like there's not a single mental health condition on this planet that has good quality sleep included. Doesn't exist because sleep regulates your emotions. Again, the lifestyle big three: sleep, 7 to 9 hours, consistent schedule, hydration, 2 to 3 liters a day, plus electrolytes if sweating. I would say three plus. Stress management, breath work, journaling, moderate exercise. These amplify the benefits of nutrition and training at every life stage. Key takeaways. Hormones shift throughout life, but lifestyle can smooth the transition. Resistance training, smart nutrition, sleep, hydration, and stress tools are universal anchors. Small, consistent actions compound into long-term results. This is my message to you. Your physiology is powerful, but it does not define your potential. Every stage, cycle, PCOS, PMDD, menopause can be managed and optimized. Knowledge plus action equals control, confidence, and better health. Any questions? Any questions on that, guys? Thanks so much for being patient. So hopefully it has been um, beneficial to you all, and you've all learned lots of new things. Um, I am not going to stay on and do the because I was going to show you a bit about coaching. If anyone is interested in coaching and how the Elevate program works, I don't want to drag everyone through seeing what that looks like, but you'll have my number now on WhatsApp if you're not a client and you're on here. So feel free to pop me a message on WhatsApp, and obviously I can always get you booked in for one-to-one strategy call. I'm sure many of my clients on here will tell you how much I've changed their life. Um, but thanks so much, guys. I don't know if there's any more questions. I just need to make sure what I'm going to do is look through the comments after, and if there's any particular questions, I can message you directly and answer you. But hopefully that was beneficial, and hopefully you learned a lot, and then we can go away and track our cycle and hopefully have better lives. But I'll leave it all with you for this morning, guys, and have a lovely weekend. Thanks for all your lovely messages, and I'm sure I'll be speaking to you all early next week to do your check-ins. Bye bye, guys.